Sorry, it took me a second to realize that screen had been gone over. I was checking a couple different places. I'm still hitting up some promo-y stuff like usual. Beginning is always that. Hello, hello. I really need to see if I can get the text to be a little smaller. Probably have to do it in Streamlabs in order to make it work. I know it's only been like 24 hours, but how's everybody doing? I spent most of today baking, which is not something I used to really do. What day is it today? 20th. Okay. So baking, obviously I posted the pretzel picture in the Discord and I tasted one, obviously. It was really good. I feel really proud of myself. I was really kind of worried because it's supposed to be made with lye. Like there's supposed to be lye in the water. But because lye can be, welcome back from the ads. Because lye can be very, I want to say caustic is the word I'm looking for. It can hurt you. It can become like a chemical burn on your person if you touch it with your hands or anything like that. So it's a very small amount, but it's still caustic. So I have baking soda. What I did was I baked it, it sounds a little counterintuitive, but you put it on a sheet and you bake it at 250 for an hour, rotating it halfway. And what that does is change it from being bicarbonate to just simply carbonate. So you can use it as a substitute in a way to lye water when you're doing certain baked goods to get the same kind of texture, flavor, browning. I did that, and while it was doing what it needed to do, as I'm putting each of the pretzels into the water to give them their dip, letting them cook a little bit with the poaching liquid, and then putting them into water so that the sodium carbonate can rinse off, and then once that's done, putting them on the baking sheet. I feel like it almost makes it a little bit too much like a bagel. The flavor is different. It's a different flavor than a bagel is. Bagel's a little bit more sweeter of a dough, but similarly, you have to dunk it in order to do this. If I were to do lye water, what I would do instead is brush them with lye, if I remember correctly, with the lye water rather than dipping them. So it's a different kind of texture once they've baked. I might try that next time, but I have to get lye water first. I've been looking online at different like grocery stores and things, and I found one. It was mentioned in a YouTube video I had watched about how difficult it can be to get certain ingredients for different intentional uses. If you like to work with any sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Any sort of ethnic type foods. The website is WEE. I'm not sponsored, but I did notice that they have lye water as something that they sell there. It's a small bottle, about the size. How much is in it? 9 fluid ounces. And like I said, I'm tempted to do it. I'm tempted to see how it comes out. I will make sure to post about it when and if that happens. Like, it could be fun. But in the meantime, the pretzels came out really nice. I really enjoyed them. I bought a very good quality flaky salt to put on them once they were before they were going into the oven to bake. And when they came out, and I also brushed them with egg white. I think maybe what I should have done instead was just do a whole egg. Maybe that would have made them look a little browner when they came out. As it was, they kind of came out looking just like regular bread products, perfectly fine. I could have also maybe baked them a little longer. I would absolutely make you one if I could. um, I wonder how well they would ship. Hmm. Maybe I make you my test subject, eh? We can talk about that. It could be a nice treat. I've received cookies by mail. I had a friend one year send me Christmas cookies. She sent me like a mixture of like 5 or 6 different cookies, and they were really nice. That was a really lovely gift slash treat to get in the mail. And if cookies can ship okay, I'm sure baked goods could, as long as I made sure to wrap them properly and uh, maybe like not foil, but oh, is it? Oh, I do see that. Hang on. Why are you doing that? Stop it. I think it stopped. That was weird. Should I do the train instead? How do we feel? It stops and then goes again. How do we feel about this versus the train um video? Or I could just do spirit lo-fi. Yeah, I see it. I see it wigging. Okay. That's going to be more distracting than anything else. So we'll just stop that. It could just be, yeah, it could just be, let's try train. Just give me 1 second to flip over. I could also do on together, but with it being late like this, I kind of don't want to. It's very bright. Where is it? On track. There we go. Bear with me while I flip it on. Laptop said nope. Chip. Yes, indeed. This is a constant struggle. Ack. Okay. Let's go and share our train. Make sure the audio is on. There we go. Oh, I need to change the book that's listed. Change the book that's listed. I can't do... It won't let. Okay, there we go. I'll just make it restart when we're about to actually start. It's very loud. Okay, give me just a second longer. I'm gonna have to go in and adjust it again. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's way too loud. God, I miss OBS so much. Does it sound any better? I worry if the... okay, whatever, that's fine. Maybe? Okay, well maybe is better than no. Give it a moment, as if I know what that means. Well, that's just gonna have to do. It was mainly the whistle and the driving. It seems fine. That's good. Okay. So baking mostly was what happened today. Making bread things. And I made dough for hamburger buns and the pretzels, and also bagel dough. I had made a milk bread type dough the other day, and it came out really great. The only downside was I had put it to ferment inside a bag that I didn't oil before I did it, so when the dough rose, it pressed against the top of the bag, and when I had to pull it off, it kind of deflated the dough a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. It didn't have the domey top that I wanted. That being said, it's very tasty dough. I will definitely be making that one again, although it did require quite a bit of butter. So I don't know. I feel like it's worth it. Something like that kind of dough is really worth it, being like a really decadent sort of bread. I want to do like a mini baguette at some point, like a couple mini baguettes, 3 or 4 or something, because I don't have the right kind of tray to do a full baguette. Normally with that kind of thing, it's best to have a what's it called? It's not a mold necessarily. It's just a form. I think that's maybe a good word to use for it. It's a form that you put the dough in so that when it bakes, it doesn't go spreading all over the place. And I don't need to get like a fancy form. I've seen people do just like cloth basically. And when you put it in with the shape of the cloth to look the way it's supposed to, basically, it keeps shape, and eventually like the cloth will ultimately slowly dip down as the bread expands and such, but that could be an option. I do think I could use, I have like a couple linen style, not rags, but hand towels, I think is maybe a good. I'm really failing at finding my words today. Am I ever not struggling to find my words every day? Words are hard. I think I'm willing to give it a shot. I also had put a root beer flavored gingerbug soda in the fridge because when I popped it open to test the gas, because you're supposed to do that. You're supposed to burp it every day or two to make sure that the pressure doesn't become so intense that it could potentially, cause problems with the bottle or shoot up out of the bottle. You see videos like that all the time with fermented drinks. When I popped the bottle, it gave a really satisfying pop, so I assumed it was ready to go into the fridge to slow down fermentation, and then when you would use it, it would do a good job. But when I pulled it out of the fridge, there was no pop. So I'm gonna have to reintroduce more gingerbug into it and just keep doing that until it actually starts to do what I want it to do. I thought maybe there was a possibility that my gingerbug isn't active enough, so I bought some more ginger. I'm gonna add it to the jar tonight, and hopefully with a couple days time, it will be in a place where it's really active and bubbly in a big way and not just in this like low-key fizz way. So we can do the root beer. It tastes really good. The root beer, the base, I guess. I bought a root beer extract, quote unquote, from a baking brand that you can get at the grocery store, and I used like 5/7 of the bottle in order to get it the correct flavor for it to work that way. And like I said, it tasted really great. So as long as you get the damn bubbles in it, it'll be great. But yeah, that's like the most I've been doing in the past couple days. I got a call for an interview. An interview at a hotel in town. It is a 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. sort of job. It would be, they call it basically a house person, but I wouldn't be the kind of house person where I would be going into rooms to flip them for the next day's guests. It would be more like light janitorial in the lobby, which I think is perfectly acceptable for me. I wouldn't have to do the same kind of laborious stuff as a regular housekeeping attendant. So that is Tuesday at 11. I think it was, I put it in my calendar as 11. So I'm hoping that one works. Maybe, hopefully they don't ghost me too like the other place did. It's really frustrating right now. Like every time the few times that I've got interviews, I thought they were good. I thought they were satisfactory, and then it doesn't work out. Either they decide not to choose me for whatever reason, or I just don't get any sort of response at all. The ones that I have gotten as far as interviews, just submitting applications, I get rejections pretty much every other day. So job market is really shitty right now. I'm really anxious about it. But as it is right now, in terms of like how we're managing bills and stuff, I guess we're going to be okay, at least for the short term. But I don't want to stay like that. It makes me super uncomfy for that to happen. So let's actually get the book started. I've already been yapping for like 20 minutes at least, and we have a lot of reading to do. This book we only got like maybe 20 pages into it last time because Sai specifically had a lot of thoughts, and we ended up kind of rabbit holing into a topic that I didn't intend for it to go. But I don't mind that either. I enjoy communicating with everybody. How are you doing, Alan? If the conversation goes in that direction, then that's a good thing. You know, we're following the natural flow of the conversation, if that makes sense. So yeah, reading the book. Let's do that. We're gonna do 25-minute sprints. So for every 25 minutes, we're gonna do a 5-minute break. That's what we're gonna do. Oh, jeez. Make sure that I don't look too terrible on the screen. There we go. Yeah, that should do. That should do. Group ritual versus private ritual. When we gathered together on the beach to release the names, pronouns, and identities that no longer served us, part of the magic was in the doing of the thing together. Coming together with other humans, breathing together, singing together, dancing together. These actions help us recognize that we are not singular beings on an isolated path, but part of a whole, living whole, parts of a web of energy and connection. Doing ritual with other people allows us to access a specific state of mind where we can maintain our own specificity while also recognizing the depth and breadth of our connection. Yet solitary ritual can be powerful as well. The quiet of a ritual without other humans present can help you to be clear on and in your own energy. It can allow you to cultivate the courage that you need to move through a threshold moment, like your first HRT shot or calling in a new name for the first time. Solitary ritual can help you develop and tend to your own unique connection to the earth, to your spiritual root, to your ancestors, or to your trans ancestors, aka transcestors. See chapter 12. It is not that ritual in community is better and ritual in solitude is worse. Rather, the hyper-individualistic culture of the Western world built on the foundation of white supremacy, it can be easy to default to solitary ritual and miss the benefits of group ritual. I encourage you to actively avoid this. While many of us struggle with community, finding it, maintaining it, and managing conflict within it, humans evolved to be communal creatures. Rituals as simple as and timeless as sharing a meal benefit from human connection. Yet ritual, especially gender ritual with other humans, may not be available to you for a variety of reasons. Many of the rituals that we engage in around gender exploration and transition are intensely private, and we may not feel safe sharing that level of depth within community. For some of us, the people we would choose to witness us may live far away. For others, the logistics of public ritual may be prohibitive. In this moment in time, for many folks, public ritual may not feel physically safe due to the anti-trans violence. And finally, we may not have people in our lives that we trust to hold the fullness of our identities. For the purpose of accessibility, I have made most of these rituals amendable to solitude. and have kept rituals that assume community involvement to a minimum. But that doesn't mean that you can't or shouldn't use these rituals in community. We must all seek the balance between the vulnerability and challenge of community space and the safety and predictability of solitary practice. Both are good, and the exact balance will depend on you and your needs. There's nothing wrong with keeping the most vulnerable version of a ritual to yourself and creating a less vulnerable version to be done in community. What this book contains and how to use it. This book is meant to contain everything that you need to do gender rituals. This means that if you're reading it and you've never done a single ritual before, or at least have never done one on purpose, this book should have all the basic knowledge and steps you need to perform gender rituals. If you're a seasoned ritualist, there may be sections that are review for you. Still, I recommend at least skimming the first part of the book, which covers when to use rituals, how to customize them, and some foundational skills that will be helpful in your journey with ritual work. In Chapter 2, I attend to the temporal aspects of choosing when to do ritual, how often to engage in a specific ritual, and how to create boundaried containers of time to support consistency in your ritual practice. Frequently, folks believe that a ritual is a sort of big one-and-done ceremony. While this is certainly one type of ritual and the best type of ritual for specific applications, it is not the best form for all needs. When we need to shift a deeply ingrained pattern, smaller, more doable, more consistent rituals can be key. Chapter 3. Sorry, my watch is very loud when it vibrates. Chapter 3 covers how to customize a ritual. This is an important chapter because even though I have worked very hard on the rituals included in this volume, there may be elements of them that do not resonate with you. This section gives all the information you need to compose your own rituals, to write them out and customize them with the ritual elements that resonate with you. Crucially, this section discusses cultural appropriation and choosing ritual elements that are appropriate to your own background and resonance. Can't see Redeems when I do that. Let me see if I can pop it out. Sorry, 1 second. There. Actually, that's perfect. This section also covers making ritual doable for you specifically and how to leave behind that which doesn't work for you. We will cover choosing a proper venue for a ritual, when to do private ritual versus community ritual, and when to involve an officiant or space holder in a ritual. I provide questions that will hopefully create the space for you to discern for yourself how you want to customize the ritual. In the chapter 4 and 5, we get into the foundational skills needed to engage with the rituals in this book. This section is separated into 2 chapters because some of these foundational skills are best used daily or at least regularly, while the rest are more centered around occasional rituals. In Chapter 4, we cover cleansing, grounding, and shielding. I offer options for engaging with these skills in various ways, and ultimately suggest working with these skills for a daily energetic hygiene, than doing larger or more intricate versions of these skills when desired. In Chapter 5, we cover opening and closing a space, working with intuition, building and tending an altar, creating sigils and petitions, working with tarot and oracle cards, and journaling or otherwise recording rituals or other intense experiences. Even if you have never created an altar or pulled a card, this section will help you find your way into whatever practices will be supportive of the rituals you wish to perform. The second part of the book covers many specific rituals that aren't related to gender. You may see uses for some or many of these rituals that are aside from or in addition to gender. That's great. Once you get the hang of it, you can make your own rituals for almost anything you want. I have tried to offer a broad variety of rituals that cover many of the aspects of gender exploration and transition experience, from attuning your own energy, a vital foundational skill for anyone of identity, belief, or experience, to preparing for surgery. Take a look at the table of contents to see all the different names of the rituals. I've tried to make them as descriptive as possible. For the most part, you do not need to do these rituals in any particular order. As mentioned, attuning to your own energy is an important skill and for most folks is wise to do earlier than later. But if you're reading this book days before surgery, I can imagine you may want to start from the pre-surgical rituals, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some of these rituals, for example, daily HRT rituals, are written to be quite specific to medical transition, while others are related to other parts of gender exploration and transition, like the ritual for releasing your attachment to old stories about yourself. If you feel drawn to any ritual, I recommend you read through it once or twice, then gather the materials and set up the circumstances to make it happen. And if you never do a single gender ritual, but you start a regular practice for cleansing, grounding, and shielding as outlined in Chapter 4, then reading this book will have been worth it. A note on terminology. When discussing both gender and spirituality, there are many linguistic pitfalls. For example, the word trans can be understood to include or exclude many different folks and experiences. To be clear, I use trans as a shorthand for gender-expansive, non-binary, and trans people. Language around gender shifts rapidly, and what is cutting edge will often be dull and outdated mere months later. So if you read this in a future time when my terminology seems dull and outdated, I hope that you will view these words favorably. My intention and goal will always is to be as inclusive as possible without losing the meaning of my ideas. Similarly, the word spiritual can be quite tricky, especially for a community with so much religious trauma. Further, in the US context, alternative spiritualities are often rife with white supremacy, capitalism, and other forms of oppression. Words like blessings or prayer are associated by some with organized religion and by others with New Age nonsense. To be very clear, to me, all beings have access to the spiritual because the spiritual is the web of connection among all beings. My own belief systems are rooted in transness as a portal to an animistic understanding of the world. All beings, human, non-human, more than human, have animacy, consciousness, connection. People feel that connection and experience it in different ways, but we all have some access to it. That access point, that potential for rooting, that connection to the web of all things, that is what I refer to when I refer to the spiritual. I do not want or need anyone to believe what I believe. There is no book of answers that I turn to, no ultimate authority, no need to proselytize. Rather, I have rooted into the connections that exist in my sphere and built my relationship to the mystery from that place, such that it is only always my own. If you're wondering how one does such a thing, I have provided a ritual for attuning to your own energy. That is an excellent place to start. You do not need to believe as I believe to use this book. You do not need to believe as I believe to use this book. You do not need to identify as I identify. Take the pieces of it that speak to you. I iterate, keep notes, adjust. Over time, you will build your own relationship to ritual, to yourself, to your web of connections. That is where you will find your power. Conclusion. You may have noticed that the positioning of this book is extremely trans. You may think that means that the book is only useful for or by trans people. But I started this introduction by saying that if you're reading this book, it's meant for you. There are a few reasons I started there. First of all, almost everyone who has ever been trans had to, at some point, realize that about themselves. For most folks, at least those around my age, that realization wasn't particularly easy to come by. So if you're a person who doesn't identify as trans, well, that could shift. I wanted this book to be available for you as well. Further, if that doesn't shift and you explore your gender and land on the deep knowledge that you are indeed a cisgender person, that's actually great too. I think a lot of the violence that trans people experience could be mitigated if cis people took the time to explore their own genders and do whatever it was that they needed to do whatever it was that they needed to in order to live authentically and well. I believe that anyone who picks up this book will be able to find some support within and through it. So I reiterate that if you are reading this, it was written for you. If you are reading this, there is something or perhaps many things tucked into this text that will serve you, even if you don't know it yet, or you don't know why. The journey is half the fun. Ritual has been absolutely profound part of my journey and the journeys of so many of my clients, students, and community members. My intention for this book is that it will bring magic of ritual to many folks, and that it will allow you, dear reader, to experience this magic for yourself. My intention for you is that you will receive from this text the exact thing that you need from it. Happy ritual crafting. There we go. Got my not so noisy water bottle today. Except, of course, then I have to make sure to put it right next to the mic so it's still loud. Forgive me. Chapter 2, Timing Your Rituals. Introduction. When you think about ritual, how often do you feel that it should be a part of your life? There's no particularly correct answer. Each of us has our own relationship to ritual, but it is easy to consider only the most dramatic rituals and forget that in reality, life is made of endless small rituals that direct our time and attention. There's value in recognizing that even rituals that take very little time or energy will permanently alter our lives if we engage with them consistently enough, and that big or dramatic rituals are not necessarily the best for each occasion. In my experience with holding ritual for and with clients, this is the piece I have most often found that folks are surprised by, that duration and consistency are often a huge part of the impact of ritual. Instead of thinking of ritual only as something that you do once you have reached a certain milestone, instead consider it to be part of how you learn, grow, and get to know yourself. Ritual can be one tool of many that you use to help tap into your own knowing, into the wisdom of your ancestors, into the flow of your own desire and energy. For more about ancestors, see chapter 12. If you spend an entire lunation, new moon to new moon, full moon to full moon, etc., intentionally connecting to your body daily, what might shift? At the very least, you will likely be connected to your body more consistently than you were before, and in that connection, all kinds of new information can emerge. That new information will in turn shift how you show up in the world, opening up new possibilities that can necessitate new rituals. In this way, we loop ritual through our lives, using it as one robust toolkit for personal growth, change, and celebration. This chapter delves into the relationships between ritual and timing across multiple dimensions of consideration. The purpose is not to give rigid instructions about timing, frequency, and duration of ritual, but rather to guide your decision making around timing. We discuss when to use ritual, how to make decisions about length and duration, how to time a ritual, and how to weave ritual in a consistent element of your life. Working with these different elements of ritual can help you create a deep, effective practice that works for who you are right now. When to use ritual. I don't believe there is a wrong or a right time to use ritual, so the quick answer is anytime it serves you, your goals, your life, your community, or the earth. But that might feel too broad to be workable, so let's get specific. The first element to consider is why you want to engage in ritual. For example, do you want to celebrate something, mark it, grieve it? Do you want to create a new habit in your life, deepen a practice, connect to yourself or to another being? Something else entirely? Rituals can be used for any of these reasons, so getting clear on the why can be really useful in making logistical choices about timing. If your why doesn't feel clear, take some time to journal, process with a friend, or meditate. The goal isn't to have a perfect why, but to understand enough about your intention to make initial choices about the details. In general, if you want to mark a specific experience, event, or turning point in your life, a one-time ritual might be the way to go. These rituals often carry the signature of a distinct before and after. However, if you want to shift some internal patterns, create a new habit, or engage in deep change work, a smaller and more sustained ritual over a specific container of time will be more effective. These types of rituals support more incremental change, small steps that add up to significant results. For example, a ritual to release a name, pronoun, or identity label and claim a new one could be a one-time ritual, whether done in community or not. This ritual marks a specific experience or event, and it has a distinct before and after. It doesn't mean that you could never change your name, pronoun, or identity label again, but it is like drawing a distinct line in the sand of your life. By comparison, a ritual to develop a better connection to your body would probably benefit from consistency and repetition. A smaller ritual done regularly for a period of time helps your entire self reorient to a new energy or habit. Further, if you're trying to bridge a very large gap between your current reality and your desired reality, smaller steps can take what feels impossible and ground it into reality. Using the body connections example, if you're utterly dissociated, coming back into your body fully and suddenly is probably impossible and definitely inadvisable. Coming back a bit at a time, starting with the parts that feel safe to inhabit, will make for a more sustainable and durable change. The ritual timing and duration can both reflect and support this. These aren't rules that are set in stone. Unlike the above examples, a smaller, private, consistent ritual for preparing your body and mind to release one name or pronoun may appeal to you more. You could then cap that period off with a larger ritual done in community, or you may bookend a period of doing small daily ritual with a larger opening and closing ceremony. There are so many different rhythms available. and the only requirement for the type of ritual I'm outlining here is that it works for you specifically. Loosely speaking, I use ritual when I need to change or shift something in my life. I need to be consistent in a practice. I want to create a devotional relationship. I need to mark a specific moment, change, or experience, or as a part of my spiritual practice. The more you use ritual, the more you will hone your intuition about when it is the specific tool that you need. Again, start with whatever rituals in this book speak to you and use that as a starting point. Pay attention to what works, what feels right to you, and what doesn't. You can use these details to tailor your ritual practice to your own unique specifications. Ritual length and frequency. To be completely clear, the length of a ritual does not determine its depth or efficacy. In fact, some of the most effective rituals I've ever done were only a few minutes at most. Depth and efficacy can be enhanced in all sorts of ways. One of my favorite is consistency. Sorry about that. One of my favorite is consistency. Using a daily or regular ritual during a specific period of time can effectively shift your energy or your path, even if the ritual seems small to you. To continue the example from the beginning of the chapter, you might decide that from one new moon to the next, or for one new moon lunation, you'll spend 5 minutes each morning connecting with your body. The ritual around this may be simple: sitting in a specific place, listening to a specific song or playlist, moving in intuitive ways, or going through a prescribed set of stretches, lighting a specific candle, applying a specific perfume or scent. All of these can be ritual elements that mark this practice or set it apart from the rest of the hustle and bustle of your day. When you make the time and effort to show up consistently over an extended period of time, even the seemingly smallest changes can have tremendous results. This too is the magic and the power of ritual. All right. We're going to have our first 5-minute break. That's the one downside. It always deletes. I can smell. Like I said, I really wish that there was a way to loop pomos rather than have it do one and then stop and then do one and then stop. I wish there was a way. Maybe there is and I'm just not paying attention. But yeah. I did read a review for this book already by another person who was doing review, because that was the whole reason I started picking these up again. The ARCs, the advanced reader copies. You're supposed to read them and then provide a review after you're done. And like I said before, and I'll say it again because I forgot to preface at the beginning of all of this, I'm not being paid to read this book or provide my opinion on the matter. I'm not getting that sort of... Sorry. I don't know what the hell is going on outside right now. It's fucking August on the 20th. Why are you setting off fireworks? Anyway, like I was saying, I'm not getting paid to promote or read the book by the author or the publishing company. Everything that I say or think or feel or share with everyone is mine and only mine. These things are not shared or promoted by the publisher or the author. I'm doing this because I want to, because I'm interested in the topics of the books that I've requested and have been approved for, and I want to share them with everybody else because I think that they're really great books worth talking about, worth reading. All of the recordings are mine. I'm not using these for like audiobooks for the publisher or the author. So I don't want anyone potentially using AI training data off of my voice or my reading or my books. I know there's a lot of, it's really difficult to enforce that with the way some of these platforms have been kind of manipulative about these things, but I just want to make it perfectly clear that I don't support AI. I don't support companies that use AI. I avoid as much as I possibly can. It has become more and more unavoidable, and that is distressing. So with all of that being said, the author in the earlier chapter mentioned that he uses tarot or oracle cards in his practice. I have talked about this before. I don't personally use either of those tools. And I know I said it in the last video or recording session, streaming session, that I have reasons why. And they are directly related to Romani and Jewish people and how they used specifically tarot cards as part of their divinatory practices. And the fact that Western society has taken these practices and do not honor the people behind them and their history and their reason. So it becomes for me a cultural appropriation sort of thing. I also know that tarot cards were made for other things and they just became a divinatory item for these cultures. So I don't necessarily look down on people who buy tarot cards, who collect them because the art is beautiful, because they want to support authors and artists in doing so. I absolutely love that and appreciate that. I just don't personally want to use them for that at all. And if it were up to me, if I had the opportunity, I would probably buy a print of a piece of art rather than buy a tarot deck. Just for that reason, if that makes sense. With regard to oracle cards, it really depends. I feel like some people use oracle cards as a way to avoid that, if that makes sense. They want to avoid cultural appropriation, so they've created their own way to do that. So I'm less bothered by oracle cards. But I also know a lot of woo-woo places or woo-woo people and organizations will use oracle cards and then directly attach them to things like angels, which doesn't make sense to me personally. I've also seen people use them as a way to do like affirmations and stuff like that. So I think that they're useful. I think they can be useful tools in the right hands, and if they're not appropriative in their own way. Hopefully that makes sense. I spent that entire 5 minutes just talking. I should have taken a voice break. Good job. Anyway, let's continue. Although, let me actually really quick do one other thing. stretch and do a little eye wrist. I strongly encourage you all to do the same. Good stretch, good stretch. I know that my neurodivergent friends are often intimidated or excluded in conversations of consistency. So if that is you, read on. When I say consistency, I don't mean that you have to do the ritual every single day or else you will be a failure. I mean doing the ritual on a schedule that is consistent by your own standards. For some, this will be every day. For others, it will be a few times a week on whatever days you have the capacity for it. This is purely subjective, and you will not benefit from beating yourself up about not being adequately consistent. There are varieties of ways to approach consistency. You can attach your ritual to a daily habit or to a part of your schedule that tends to be consistent. I often recommend doing something that you can do while brushing your teeth or in the first moments when you wake up or go to bed. This type of habit stacking can make it easier to develop consistency with a new practice. It's also helpful to create a specific container of time for a particular ritual purpose. Indefinite consistency may be impossible, but a boundaried period of ritual can create more possibility. Additionally, although repetition can lend potency to a ritual, it can also make the process feel rote. Choosing a specific time container for a practice gives you a clear beginning and end date, which creates space for you to check in with yourself and change your mind about whether or not you want to continue the practice. Thank you so much for the follow and welcome in. A time container creates a natural pause where you can decide whether or not the ritual is complete, if it needs to transform, or if it needs to continue. As I mentioned, my favorite time container is a lunation, new moon to new moon, full moon to full moon, or some other moon-based timing. There are many reasons for this. The moon changes consistently, and an entire moon cycle is about 29 days. Humans have timed our lives by the moon since before recorded history. Though many of us currently use the Gregorian calendar, 1 year is January 1st to December 31st. This is a recent development in the long span of human history. The moon was here before that convention, and has guided countless human beings through time. The moon influences the waters of the earth, the moods and rhythms of the life on this planet, and our consciousness itself. If you're curious about the influence of the moon on human psyche, I highly recommend the episode Your Consciousness Comes from the Moon from the Emerald podcast. If that doesn't speak to you, consider that there are many things you can do consistently for 29 days that may be hard to do consistently for longer than that. The moon is a helpful way to mark this period of time. And hey, if you work with the moon a few times in this way, you may find yourself more drawn to or interested in the more mystical things I am referencing here. If you're interested in working with the moon, I highly recommend the moon book, Lunar Magic to Change Your Life by Sarah Faith Gottendinier. Sarah is a friend and teacher of mine, and her methods for doing lunar work are absolutely foundational to my practice. Part of maintaining a consistent ritual practice is being aware of your personal capacity. Many of us tend to be out of touch with our bodies, energies, and capacities, and therefore over or underestimate what we actually have space for in our lives. To compensate for this, I recommend choosing something that seems doable and then making it even smaller or more doable. Why? Most of us operate to some degree in the realm of should. As in, I should be able to spend 30 minutes in ritual every morning, so I will just get up 30 minutes earlier so I can do this. In my experience, this is a recipe for shame and failure. Instead, ask yourself what is the easily doable amount per day. For example, does it seem easy to do 10 minutes of ritual per day? How about 5 minutes? What about 90 seconds? I often encourage folks to choose whatever feels laughably simple. So simple that it would almost be silly not to do it. Start there and do it consistently for a moon cycle, or a week, or a month, or 2 months. Keep track of what changes during that time, then reassess. If you feel organically like doing more, then do so. If you miss a day, come back to it the next day. It's not a big deal. Don't beat yourself up. Just consistently orient yourself back to your ritual again and again. If it's not working for you, change it. Make it shorter or longer. Try again. Adjust as necessary. If you want to, take a break. Note what changes and note what doesn't. This type of reflection can help you build a practice that supports you specifically. How to time one-off rituals. When you've ascertained that a ritual would be helpful and you've decided the duration of the ritual, you are ready to choose the exact timing. For one of the larger one-and-done type rituals, you might consider whether or not you want that ritual to occur on a day that already holds significance to you. For example, a name and pronoun release ritual might be a great way to spend your birthday. Other rituals will have their timing impacted by factors outside of your control. If you're doing pre-surgical ritual, I recommend timing it close to the surgery, but not so close that you'll be rushing to get it done before you go to bed the night before. Some folks may wish to time their rituals specific to a specific astrological events. The lunation timing I mentioned before is one version of this. Another option is important solar days, like the spring or autumn equinoxes, or the summer or winter solstices. You could time your ritual around specific zodiacal seasons, like doing a release ceremony during the Scorpio season, or a series of self-love rituals during the Taurus season, or around the way that specific parts of the cycle of the year impact the plants, animals, and weather in the place where you live. Perhaps a spring ritual for a new beginning, a deep winter ritual for releasing, a summer ritual for celebration, an autumn ritual for mourning and underworld work. There's also a form of astrology called electional astrology. Astrologers trained in this skill set can look at the movement of the patterns of the planets and stars during a specific period and advise you on the best timing for specific purposes. This type of timing work takes a lot of expertise and practice, and it doesn't come up cheap. If you want to get an election for a specific important ritual, I recommend choosing your astrologer carefully, as elections are a complex and specific art that requires specialized training. If you want to support a reliable trans astrologer, I recommend Ursula Rising. Her website is www.ursularising.com. When considering the timing of a one-time ritual, it is helpful to determine how much time the ritual will take and how resourced you are or will be. You probably don't want to do a 4-hour ritual at midnight if you're a certified morning person, right? I will often start from planning whether or not a ritual feels more appropriate for daytime or nighttime. Then I will see where I can feasibly do that ritual. In the general rhythm of my days or weeks, a longer ritual needs more focused attention on the specificity of the timing, but in general, some helpful considerations include: what time and place will I have privacy and for how long? Does this ritual need to take place somewhere other than my home? If so, do I need to make specific arrangements based on hours, weather, crowds, and other factors? Do I need access to any particular resources or amenities during this ritual? Is it crucial that this ritual be private or uninterrupted? Is there a physical geographical location that feels meaningful for the purpose of this ritual? If a ritual can be done at home, you can attain privacy at home. And you can attain privacy at home. That can solve a lot of issues. But if a ritual needs to be done in a public place or in a place that lacks some of the basic amenities we often take for granted, some additional planning may be needed. Sitting with the questions above should help you decipher the specific consideration for your ritual. As someone who uses astrology and works with planets, I will often key my ritual to planetary days and hours for additional specificity. A ritual that deals in love, pleasure, beauty, abundance, justice, or balance would be a Friday daytime or a Monday night affair for me, as those are the times that Venus rules. A ritual for boundaries, goals, and hard work could be on a Saturday daytime or Tuesday nighttime, the times of Saturn. Additionally, each day is divided into planetary hours, blocks of time that are ruled by specific planets. You can look up the planetary day and hour at the website www.planetaryhours.net if you would like to use this simple but powerful timing technique. How to time ongoing ritual. Timing for an ongoing, consistent, or daily ritual requires a different set of considerations. It is helpful to be aware of your body, capacity, and schedule to make this type of ritual work as intended. For my own practice, I created a series of morning rituals that are vital to my work as a gender doula. These rituals are elastic and shift with my needs, desires, and intentions. If I want to do a ritual towards a longer-term goal, adding it to this time can be a helpful and simple way to maintain consistency. When timing your consistent rituals, consider what feels doable to your body. Some folks do well with guided meditation or other guided rituals, while others do best when they can guide themselves. Some folks need to move their bodies in order to accomplish anything, while others do best sitting still. Some folks need to feel themselves doing something material, while others can swim in the realm of the mind or emotions. None of these are incorrect, none of them less powerful than any other option. What matters above is that you find what feels doable, possible, and easeful. Start there. Next, consider the rhythm of your energy and timing. What time of the day do you find yourself to be most resourced? Are there parts of the week that you can anticipate you will be exhausted or scattered? My weekday evenings, for example, include a lot less ritual than my weekday mornings. Weekends are more of a free-for-all. My energy is more elastic, so my schedule can be as well. Over time, you may find that a more exhausted energy works better for certain types of rituals, and that a sharp, alert energy works best for others. You may need to engage in some trial and error to discern your own patterns, and those patterns will most likely shift over time. Take some time to notice what rituals you are already consistent with. None of these rituals have to look particularly special, spiritual, or even intentional. Perhaps you sit down to eat breakfast in the morning most days. At one point, I noticed that when I sat down to eat breakfast, I would spend the time reading my emails and scrolling on my phone, and that this was distracting and often distressing. I chose to shift my phone scrolling time to book reading time, and suddenly I was getting through all these incredible books that I had purchased and never gotten around to starting. Later, I decided that I wanted to journal instead of reading, and I managed to keep a consistent journal for the first time in my life. I offer these examples to show how something that is functionally a ritual, like scrolling your phone while eating your breakfast, can just seem like a default option, almost a non-action. But when you examine it through the lens of ritual, these default options actually have a significant impact on your time, energy, and experience. Shifting at least one of these default moments during the day can give you a foundation for your ritual practice. If you understand the rituals you currently engage in, intentionally or not, you will develop a better sense of where your energy is going and how you might be able to shift it. As you experiment with different rituals and options, you can change your energetic patterns for your days. Over time, this will change your life. This can be woven together with our lunation example. Perhaps you too have noticed that you spend your evening relaxation time in front of a screen, and that after doing so, you don't feel particularly good. Let's say that you want the option to do screen-related activities, but you also want to add in another activity for at least some part of your evenings. But when you try to do so, you find yourself feeling resistant and lethargic. This is a great time to use a lunation rhythm. You don't have to give up your comforting screen time. Simply decided it that for the next lunation, you're going to try something else. If you've not worked with lunation in this way before, it can be quite intuitive. Doing anything consistently for 29-ish days might feel daunting. When leading lunation-based rituals, I am often asked how one maintains the pacing and momentum through the entire 29-day cycle. One advantage of lunation work is that the ebbs and flows are naturally built in via the patterns of the moon. Your individual relationship to the moon phases may differ from conventional wisdom or what you see on the internet. For example, you might feel low energy on the full moon and high energy on the waning moon. If you want to go deep in your own relationship to the moon cycles, I recommend Sarah Gossendinger's The Moon Book. But if you're not sure which moon phase to choose, you can simply go with a new moon for seeds you want to plant and a full moon for harvesting or releasing. You will start with the moon in whatever phase you've chosen, then do ritual consistently for the following 29 days until the next time the moon is in the same condition. To keep momentum for the full 29 days, I find it to be most effective when I mix rituals of different types, duration, and intensity based on the moon cycle. I've included the following example for clarity. Sorry, just a second. To answer your question, I am a writer, but this is not my book. This is a book I'm reading for stream. I haven't really done writing on stream. I might in the future. Example. New moon lunation ritual rhythm. Day 1. First new moon. Big opening ritual, cleansing and preparing, setting intentions, lighting candles, altar building, divination, and anything else that feels relevant. Days 2 through 6. Daily smaller rituals. Adding a cup of water to the altar, saying a prayer or incantation, meditation. Day 7-ish. First quarter moon. Ritual to reaffirm intentions, adjust anything that has shifted, possibly more offerings on the altar. Days 8 through 13. Daily smaller rituals continue. Day 14-ish. Full moon. Here I would do a robust ritual of some sort, often working with gratitude, abundance, or fullness in its forms. In its many forms. Days 15 through 20. Daily smaller rituals continue. Day 21-ish. Last quarter moon. Ritual for reflecting on the experience so far, shifting anything that needs to be shifted, gratitude, reaffirming intentions to finish strong. Days 22 through 28. Daily smaller rituals continue. Day 29-ish. Second new moon. Close the ritual with gratitude and reflection. Remember, this is just an example. Try it and then adjust it to the rhythms that work best for you specifically. I hope that seeing it written out in this way will help you to get a feel for how effective this sort of timing can be and how you might integrate this into your own life and practice. Rituals as a consistent part of life. When to perform rituals? Anytime you want, and probably more often than you think you should. I have rituals that I perform daily or almost daily, others that happen weekly, monthly, seasonally. Each ritual can happen on its own schedule and time frame. Not all of these rituals are related to gender, though. You may have gender rituals that you perform once, and others that you may perform consistently for some time. A ritual may feel deeply necessary for a period of life, and then one day you may find that you're complete with that specific practice, but ready for something else. For example, at one point I needed to perform sustained regular cord cutting rituals for harmful relationship patterns that were deeply embedded in my body. A full lunation of cord cutting, following a similar pattern to the example above, cleared the pattern from me. I didn't need to continue with that same ritual and shifted to a more general form of daily cleansing. This sort of natural migration from one set of rituals to another is nothing to worry about. It is normal and good that our rituals shift, change, and grow as we do. Many of my clients begin their hormone journeys with weekly rituals. For most, these rituals naturally shrink or drop away as the clients become more comfortable with their HRT journey. For others, the ritual remains a cherished anchoring point in their week. What matters with any ritual is that it is still working for you specifically. In this book, you will find a whole host of rituals that you can use for specific needs. However, my not-so-secret plan is that in doing some of these rituals, you will begin to get a feeling for what a ritual entails, and even for what your specific needs and preferences around rituals include. My hope is that you will be able to create your own rituals, customized to your individual preferences and needs, and feel the magic of a more ritual-focused life. Your relationship to ritual will be as unique as your relationship to gender, and that includes the timing, frequency, and consistency of your rituals. The point of engaging in ritual, including those in this book, is not perfection. Instead, the point is in the doing of the ritual itself. Similarly to the adage about journeys and destinations, it is your practice of ritual that will make an appreciable difference for you, not dogma about how long or how consistent a ritual should be. Your goal with the length and the consistency of rituals is, what will I actually do? What will serve the function it needs to for me? A consistent ritual that is 2 minutes per day will generally have a greater impact on changing your life than a one-time ritual, even if it is dramatic and expertly crafted. But a one-time, longer ritual may be exactly what you need to mark a shift or change in your life. Ultimately, it is up to you to discern what type of ritual you need, whether or not it should be consistently done over time or a one-off, and what elements it should entail. The following chapters will continue to help you define these considerations and boost your skills to make the necessary discernments. Chapter 3, Customizing Ritual. One of the aspects of ritual that trips a lot of folks up is specificity. It can feel like everything has to be exactly right, formulated in an exact manner, and that any deviation means that the ritual won't work. While specificity matters in certain rituals and cases, the type of ritual we're covering in this book is highly customizable. And that's not an accident. Being able to create your own rituals or iterate on rituals made by someone else can be wildly empowering. It can create space for you to engage with your intuitive knowledge or to weave in elements that you have a personal relationship with. When I create customized ritual with folks, we have a chance to talk about their preferences and what speaks to them specifically. While I have a general structure I work with for rituals, custom rituals are written fresh for each person. I will work with folks until the language is refined according to their needs and preferences. Time for a little break. I need to remember to lean back in the chair. Right now I am constantly leaning forward. I should probably... Oops. No, don't. Dang it. You weren't supposed to do that. Well, wouldn't you know? You and my watch are clearly conspiring against me. segments of your spine like pop and open whenever you lean over your own body, stretch down towards your toes. Granted, I can't touch my toes. I am not that flexible. But I do reach down as far as I can, and I usually put my hands like against the fronts of my legs and stuff like that in order to keep my balance from taking over. Oh, that feeling. That feeling when everything pops is so, like, it's a relief, but it's also uncomfy. Isn't happening by itself. What the fuck, man? Oh, what the heck? I can't remember if I already mentioned or not that I did a bunch of leg exercises this morning, and holy crap, like, I came down the stairs kind of shaky because I did it so hard. But I'm glad that I did it. I've been really good recently about being consistent about it. Ooh, there are a couple readers on right now. We've got Luke. We've got Shika Bami. We've got Lady Edgy Fox. I think she might have just started. Rogue Goblin Cozy Bard? I did not. Was this directly in regard to Baldur's Gate, or is this an adjustment to your PNG avatar? In which case, I need to go and look in the Discord. Oh, give me a sec. Oh my god. Looking hella cute. The only thing that's missing, and it's a very small thing, is if you're gonna be a bard, you need to have an instrument. So I see a dagger, which is a good choice, but I don't see an instrument. Although I guess you could argue that the human voice is an instrument and all that you need. And you could also argue that your form of bard is more of like physical work, like dancing or juggling or whatever. Like being a jester is part of being a bard, actually. Those types of what are they called? Like what's it called? Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Yes, that is correct. I am bard. You are not. You are just gob. You are just gobzilla. Okay. So we are on the third pomo now, if I'm remembering correctly. So that will become a full hour. And then we'll do a long break. And maybe I will go upstairs and get a snack during long break. Okay. Beep, beep, beep. Beep, 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 beep. Cosbin? Nah, don't do that. Alrighty. Let's get back into it. No, I have a wireless mouse, but I only have two USB ports on this laptop. I don't have a USB port, so I keep reaching for the mouse to use it, and I'm like, oh wait, I can't. Every single time I do it, I feel like such a thing. Okay, come on. Focus, let's focus, come on. Okay, lean back in the chair. Don't curl. Don't trip, curl. There we go. The only difference is now I can't. It doesn't matter. Chapter 3. Customizing ritual. One of the aspects of ritual that trips a lot of folks up is the specificity. It can feel like everything has to be exactly right, formulated in an exact manner, and that any deviation means that the ritual won't work. While specificity matters in certain rituals and cases, the type of ritual we're covering in this book is highly customizable, and that's not an accident. I already read this. Or did I? No, I didn't. That's just, oh, okay, I think I understand. It's a repeated phrase. Ignore me. Being able to create your own ritual or iterate on rituals made by someone else can be wildly empowering. It can create space for you to engage with your intuition, Being able to create your own rituals or iterate on rituals made by someone else can be wildly empowering. It can create space for you to have a personal relationship to. No, it can create space for you to engage with your intuitive knowing or to weave in elements that you have a personal relationship to. When I create customized rituals with folks, we have a chance to talk about their preferences and what speaks to them specifically. While I have a general structure I work with for rituals, custom rituals are written fresh for each person. I will work with folks until the language is refined according to their needs and preferences. Yet years of work as a gender doula, teacher, tarot reader, ritualist, and facilitator have all taught me that there is no instruction that works for everyone. Further, each of us has our own relationship to the web of all things. I have facilitated for people who consider themselves spiritual but not religious, folks who describe themselves as scientifically minded. I don't really buy all this spiritual stuff. And for folks who were themselves ordained or otherwise recognized as a leader of an organized religion. I've been able to tailor ritual in all these contexts, in part because my mindset when approaching this type of ritual is elastic. Hello, Luke. I just mentioned you. How are you? Are you in the middle of stream or did you just peek your head in? Either way, Hello, thank you for coming in. In this chapter, I will lay out some of the contours of that elastic mindset. When tailoring ritual, it is helpful to consider the general shape of ritual, what is and is not optional, what to avoid, and how to choose various elements of ritual, as well as choosing a venue, deciding between community and individual ritual, and when to involve an officiant or other space holder. Ritual basics. Oh my god, you rated. Hello, everybody! It is so nice to see you all. Hello! For those of you who don't know me, hi, welcome in. My name is Wayward Bard. You can just call me Bard, that's okay. I'm a reader, primarily, but I also do a lot of games that are story-driven or have really interesting character developments and that sort of thing. That's kind of me in a nutshell. You'll mostly find me reading, but I do occasionally play games. We've been playing a playtest of Probably Stolen recently. Thank you so much. It's the on track game in Steam if you're interested. And you can adjust a bunch of stuff too. If you have to raid and run, absolutely, I understand. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And again, thank you so much for trusting me with your people. I so appreciate that, and I appreciate you for bringing them to me. Make sure, everybody, that you're taking some time too for yourselves. Make sure you're stretching, you're getting your water, you're having a snack, you're uncurling, so you're not leaning over yourself. I find myself doing that all the time. Alrighty, let's get back to it. Oh goodness, it's been a while since I've had a raid. Okay. I lost track of where I was. Alright, here we go. Ritual basics. If a ritual can be customized so thoroughly, does that make it less effective? Does it mean the ritual was meaningless to begin with? It is true that there are certain rituals that require specificity. Ceremonial magic, culturally specific rituals, and rituals that rely on particular deities or astrological elections generally require a lot of specificity and attention to detail. The rituals in this book, however, are rituals that you as an individual are using to mark your own life and your own process. The requirement for specificity isn't coming from any outside system, spirit, or deity. Instead, it's about being highly tuned in to your own self and doing what works for you as a unique being. In other words, you are the specificity of this type of ritual. This can be empowering, but it can also be terrifying, especially if you're new to this work. Obviously, I have opinions about ritual, especially gender ritual. So many opinions that I even wrote this book. And yet, my opinions are based on my brain, my body, my spirit, my context, my experience, and ultimately what works for me. Your mileage may vary. This is why I have no illusions that my way is the best way, the most desirable way, or the way that will work for everyone. We are each working with our own set of experiences, preferences, abilities, cultural backgrounds, ancestral spirits, relationships, and neurobiology. Of course, we will each experience these practices differently. Still, there are some things that tend to hold true across it all. Some of the rituals in this book are meant to be short, regular practices, designed to be done repeatedly or consistently. They may not fit the general idea of rituals, but I've included them because I find them to be very helpful for clients, and I come back to them again and again. The rest of the rituals are more involved. You need more than a few minutes to do them, and you probably wouldn't do them overly often. We've covered helpful information for consistent rituals in Chapter 2, so for the rest of this chapter, you can assume that when I say ritual, I'm referring to the type with multiple steps, meant to require some significant amount of time and to be done once or at least infrequently. First things first, there are some parts of ritual that matter quite a lot, but usually in a big picture way rather than a granular way. For example, in upcoming chapters, I am going to teach you about cleansing, grounding, and protection. These skills are collectively called energetic hygiene. I strongly believe that energetic hygiene is non negotiable for ritual work in general. In fact, even if you don't do any other ritual work, energetic hygiene is an important foundation for life. However, the forms of energetic hygiene that work best for you will be yours to uncover through trial and error and to practice. So, big picture, these practices are non negotiable, but in a granular sense, there's no reason that my versions of these practices should be the same as yours. The pre work, or step zero, is preparing for the ritual and preparing the space according to the specific needs of the work you're doing. After that, many rituals will involve the following steps: ritual cleansing of the space and the people in it, warding and protection, building an altar and making offerings, raising energy, meditation or work with that energy, symbolic action, divination, gratitude, and closing out. Just as step zero is preparing the ritual space and items, the final step is putting everything away. While each of these steps is important to me, the ones marked with asterisks represent what I consider to be non-negotiable. Cleansing, boundary, and protection work, and then gratitude and closing out are like the bookends on either side of the ritual. They hold it together and help you to show up in a way that is both appropriate and powerful. Yet the rest has a bit more wiggle room. An altar is almost always helpful if not required, but what constitutes an altar can vary. It could be a candle and a picture, or some intentions written on a paper with a leaf from outside. It could also be an elaborate affair prepared in advance, covered in offerings of fruit and baked goods and flowers. I've seen folks create a digital altar, and for folks who lack physical space and resources, I always recommend an energetic altar. My dear friend and collaborator, Zel Amanzi, talks about their body as an altar, particularly when working with their ancestors. Raising energy is also quite elastic. You may wish to move, to dance, to sing, to clap, to do breath work. There really is no end to the options. You could take this part out entirely, though I do find it to be very useful. Symbolic action is, perhaps, the most customizable of all. This could be about carving your name into a candle and lighting it. It could be a dance or rinsing your hands and feet or body in water. It could include moving items from one place to another. Really, the world is your oyster, and you will see many different iterations of symbolic action in the second part of this book. Divination is probably the most optional of the steps, in part because it's deeply personal. Some folks prefer tarot or oracle cards, others runes or bones, or even pendulums. Some folks are terrified of divination and don't want to work with it or even consider it. For that reason, I almost didn't include it as a step, except that I find nearly all of my clients ask for this when we do ritual. So if you have not worked with any form of divination before, feel free to skip this part. If you're not feeling it, or the ritual is too public, you can also skip it. When customizing a ritual that is already written, you could start by writing out the skeleton of the ritual and analyzing if any of the pieces don't work for you. For example, ritual for a thing I am doing: clearing the space, bring in protection, set boards, call in ancestors or helpers, build an altar and make offerings, write out intentions, carve a candle, intuitive movement to raise energy, imbue candle with intention, light, meditate with flame, read cards, give gratitude, close out the ritual, dismantle the altar, remove boards. Perhaps reading cards doesn't work for you, but you still want a chance to talk to the ancestors or do some form of divination. You could replace this part with using pendulum, casting runes, reading the trinkets, bibliomancy, or any other practice. Or perhaps no form of divination feels good to you. In that case, you could remove that part of the ritual entirely. Perhaps you're a pro at the cards, but instead of intuitive movement, you would rather sing or chant. These you can easily swap out. The idea is that if action X doesn't work for you and action Y provides pretty much the same outcome, that's an easy switch. But if action X is something you're fundamentally opposed to or uncomfortable with, then you can just take it out completely. If you are a total beginner to all of this, I recommend doing rituals as written at least a few times. Each of these rituals has been carefully crafted and each element is included for a reason. Even if there is something about it that seems odd to you, it can be worth trying to see how you end up feeling. For example, my first tarot teacher, Lindsay Mack, taught me to call in my guides for my readings. I didn't really know what guides were, and I wasn't sure I believed in them, but Lindsay said to just try and see what happened, so I did, and I definitely noticed a difference in my readings. That was very early in my spiritual journey, but through that experience, I learned that sometimes you just have to try things and see what sticks. Over time, as you perform rituals, you will begin to get a feel for what works for you and what doesn't. If you only ever do the rituals in this book, that's fine. But if you find that you enjoy this type of work, it can be deeply rewarding to iterate on what is written here and figure out what works best for you. Do you thrive on meditation and guided journeys? Physical rituals with lots of movement? Do you benefit from dressing in a specific way for ritual? These are all things to explore with yourself as you gain more experience in ritual. Of course, there are also aspects of ritual that are important to avoid. So let's talk about cultural misappropriation. Cultural misappropriation, also referred to as cultural appropriation, is rampant in spiritual spaces. In the United States, it is hard to find a spiritual, occult, or metaphysical supplier who doesn't sell white sage, for example. White sage is a particular variety of sage that is sacred to multiple indigenous groups across the areas where it grows, commonly called Southern California and Northern Mexico. Because Native American traditions are often viewed as inherently mystical by white Americans, and because white Americans so often assume we are entitled to anything and everything that sparks our interest or intrigue, white sage has become commodified in a way that has been devastating to the traditional gathering grounds of various indigenous groups. Mainly white spiritual people have spread the idea that burning white sage has some unique cleansing power for everyone. But the reality is that burning white sage is just one part of a complex and deep relationship that indigenous folks have cultivated with this amazing plant. The rituals and the relationships to white sage are specific to the lineages that have cultivated them, and when the smoke is simply deemed best cleansing by white people who have no relationship to these lineages, it is a deep violation. Because of the entitlement and disrespect that the white people have shown around white sage, poaching has devastated the wild populations and traditional gathering grounds. As a result of this cultural misappropriation, I've seen white sage for sale in the most random places, like clothing stores or trendy gift shops. White sage isn't supposed to be sold in this way at all, and this context strays far from its sacred purpose. Heartbreakingly, it is safe to assume that any white sage you see for sale at a storefront has been poached, contributing to the devastation. This never needed to be the case. Almost every culture worldwide has some form of smoke cleansing tradition, and you can make beautiful, effective smoke cleansing bundles yourself from plants that grow locally to you. Further, what good is a spiritual tool that is made in a way that harms and dishonors the earth themselves and the traditional stewards of the land? This is just one example of how cultural misappropriation functions in spiritual spaces. The traditions and sacred practices of a group of people are taken out of context and adopted in ways that are often co-opted by capitalism. Racist views about the inherent mysticism of various cultures are deployed to create a veil of intrigue around these practices, even as they are debased by people who neither understand them nor have the knowledge to practice them accurately or well. And to top it off, these same cultures are denigrated by the very people who profit from appropriating them, either overtly or covertly. When you're tailoring your rituals, it is important not to add anything to them unless you're familiar with its provenance and purpose. Words, symbols, practices, instruments, songs, dances, each of these carries power. When you misappropriate them without context, you are doing harm to both yourself and the cultures and people you're misappropriating from. Let's come back to smoke cleansing. Cleansing energy and space with smoke is an exceedingly common practice. Instead of defaulting to white sage because someone else told you it was the thing to use, consider your purpose for using smoke to cleanse, and then find an option that is both effective and appropriate for you to use. You could burn many different types of incense. You could dry a bundle of rosemary, mugwort, juniper, lavender. The options are endless, and none of them require you to steal from indigenous cultural practices that you don't understand. The truth is, you should avoid cultural misappropriation because it's harmful and it sucks. But even beyond that, any time that we engage in cultural misappropriation, we are robbing ourselves of the opportunity for an authentic spiritual relationship or experience, and are therefore creating the conditions for a shallow, anemic relationship to the world around us and the web of all things. I believe that, especially for white people, this is part of why we often feel so spiritually empty and therefore spiritually voracious in a way that is never satisfied. Our ancestors chose to sever their relationship with lineage to avail themselves of unearned race-based power and privilege. We must heal that wound, even if it takes many generations. That healing starts by cultivating our own relationships to our roots, to the land, to the earth, and not through making a pale imitation of the relationships of others. You might, at some point, realize that something you thought was fine is actually culturally misappropriate. This has happened to me and to many other folks I know. At that point, you don't need to be overcome with shame. You don't need to make justifications or double down and get defensive. Simply choose to acknowledge the mistake, ascertain what is needed in terms of restitution, and move forward with this new knowledge. To spiral in shame is to center yourself. That's exactly the kind of thing to avoid. Good night, Z. See you later. It can be alluring to think that you can find some definitive list or rule book about cultural misappropriation and therefore avoid it entirely. This mindset is a sneaky form of perfectionism, which is itself a white supremacist impulse, and I encourage you to notice when it pops up. When folks are in this mindset, and again, I see this mostly with white people, they sometimes go and find someone from whatever culture they wish to appropriate from and get permission, quote unquote, from them for whatever they are doing. This too is deeply misguided, and it only increases the violence of the misappropriation. Only you can be accountable for your decisions, choices, and practices around culture, so you must learn to be real and honest with yourself, not in a self-centered, self-deprecating way, but in a way that is genuine and focused on right relationship with the earth, the web of all things, and the people around you. Colonization and the subsequent destruction and devaluation of many cultural practices are to blame for this situation. Yet you have the opportunity to choose if you will actively participate in decolonization or if you will further the violence with either action or passivity. I hope that all who choose to engage with this text will also engage with the idea that they have a role to place in decolonization. Let me just miss up. My mouth is dry. Sorry, I didn't mean to bump my mic. What if you don't have access to lineage? So if you read the previous section and are now feeling hopeless because you have no cultural connection that you're aware of, take a few breaths. Many folks' connection to their roots culture is disrupted for one reason or another. Perhaps you're a person with multi-ethnic background and there's no particular culture that your family practiced. Perhaps you were adopted by folks from a different culture than yours and were therefore cut off from your own practices. Perhaps your family was connected to a culture at one point but chose to assimilate in order to access safety. I can't speak to every contour of every situation. Something like, for example, cross-cultural adoption is extremely complex and there are a lot of moving parts. Such an experience varies dramatically from the specificity of someone whose ancestors were colonizers. Instead of trying to troubleshoot every form of cultural disruption in one chapter of one book, let me offer a few tips that have worked for me, clients, and students in the past. First, remember that you do actually have ancestors. If in doubt, you can reach to your bones, your blood, the minerals of your body, the parts and pieces of you that contain not a few recent ancestors, but millions of ancestors. Ancestors who are human and mammal and reptiles and fish and trees and plants and even stars. We sell ourselves short when we see only the possibilities of the current moment, which is so fleeting. You are a part of this earth. There are so many iterations of life that brought you to this place, this time, this moment. Start from that place if you need a place to start. If you live on a land that is different from the land of your more recent human ancestors, I recommend reading Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass. It was revelatory to me to realize that we can practice becoming indigenous to a place, not to take over or claim some authority to it, but to develop a relationship based in reciprocity, mutuality, and understanding with the land that sustains our lives and holds our bodies. And also, if you know that your people come from a specific land, you can research that place. The symbols, herbs, art, foods, spirituality, myths, folktales, and practices of that place can begin to become a part of your self-concept and spiritual practice. Finally, find ways to engage the web of all things that are based in personal relationship and knowing, rather than relying on the understandings and experiences of others to guide you. For example, perhaps you wish to invoke or evoke a certain animal energy in your ritual. Rather than typing symbolism of the owl into a search engine, I recommend searching the animal itself. If you query about the symbolism, you will get someone else's relationship to that animal, whether it is an actual cultural understanding or some random blogger's opinion that they present under the guise of ancient understandings or whatever. If you read, for example, a Wikipedia page about an animal, you will be reading a set of common observations from which you can start to develop your own conclusions. I learned about this type of animistic research first through Adrienne Maree Brown's book, Emergent Strategy. This book, foundational to so many of my ways of being in the world, uses different natural phenomena to consider how we as human beings can move, live, gather, and thrive. This was my first real foray into animism, and is part of how I was able to conceive of transness as a form of spiritual practice. The book Undrowned by Alexis Pauline Gumbs is another excellent primer on this type of learning, and is published in the Emergent Strategy tradition. Gumbs examines various marine mammals and uses their features and adaptations to expound on many facets of life, relationships, and blackness. These books might also help you to find your way through the complexity of developing a relationship to the web of all life. But make no mistake, The goal here is to develop your own relationships. Working through the lens of someone else's relationship to a thing, symbol, place, or practice can be interesting and instructive if it is done in a way that is mutual and appropriate. But however, especially when you're still early in the process of building your relationships to the web, it is good to focus on yourself first. If you read a dry article explaining the habitats and social practices of the crow, what stands out to you? What resonates, and in what ways? When you think about those details and then you observe the crows around you, what do you notice? Are you seeing them in a new way? What happens if you embody crow energy? How do you move differently? Do any parts of you awaken? Oop, I keep hitting my mic, I'm so sorry. Okay, that is the fourth Pomodoro sequence. So we're gonna have a bit of a longer break this time. I'm gonna go upstairs really quick and get something to eat and move my legs a little bit, and I recommend that you all do the same. I'm not ending the stream. I am simply stepping away, so don't feel like you are not gonna see me again. I'm gonna put the title that I'm taking a break up here with the length, and I'll be right back. First of all, I really appreciate it. Like, so much, I really, really do. I think it's definitely not new information for someone like me, who's been in this practice for a couple decades now. And I originally grew up in the Pacific Northwest, but spent almost a decade in the Southwest. So I got to deal with a lot of people who were especially affected by what white sage is to them and how it's been appropriated and all of the things attached. So it doesn't affect me personally, but it does affect a lot of people that I know and love. So I appreciate that the author took time to mention that in the book. And I think it's worth noting also that while obviously this book is meant for trans people, people who are gender non-conforming and non-binary and all of that, it's also very specifically written for an audience that is mostly North American. There are other situations of appropriation that exist elsewhere, and I encourage people to look into that, to take the extra step and maybe explore it. I know, for instance, that a lot of stuff that's going on in Canada right now with the Indigenous population there is very similar to some of the stuff that has happened in North America, specifically the United States. And even in Mexico and the southern states, a lot of the people who are Mexican are also to some degree indigenous, so Native Americans. They fall into that category too. And their colonizers were primarily the Spaniards. So a lot of those things that were maybe native to their own practices were very intentionally eradicated. My family, to my understanding anyway, is predominantly Eastern European and English, like British English. And most of them came to the United States, emigrated to the United States because of things that were happening in their countries at the time. I don't have ancestors who go all the way back to the founding of the Americas by any means. But I've also done studies about how a lot of immigrants coming into the country from their own native homelands, because they were white passing, they accepted that title of being white and divorced themselves from their own practices, the practices that their ancestors and their relatives were doing in their own native lands. So I've spent a lot of time also looking into some of these things for personal growth and personal understanding. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of stuff that is not painted by New Age propaganda, for lack of a better term. So I've had to go through different avenues in order to get some of this information. What's especially difficult with the Eastern European parts of my ancestral lineage is that there were situations of Russification, so the invasion of Russia into their lands and trying to systematically eradicate all of their historical works, in some cases even their language, trying to prevent it from continuing to exist. In a lot of these places, their language was minimized so that they were only speaking Russian and not their native language. In a situation like Lithuania, for example, they had to very intentionally fight that. They would do things like heritage clubs and such as a way to keep these practices alive under the guise of study, rather than, oh, we're practicing them so that we can continue to practice them. And even in some cases, the colonizing Russians wouldn't take them for their word. People would be arrested, people would be tried, people would be put in camps and other things. So it's something you can see not only in North America and the United States, to be specific, but like you can find that sort of oppression everywhere. It is not new. So I encourage you all to go and learn these things about your own ancestral lineage. Don't rush in and claim it the same way is mentioned with the whole, that white perfectionism thing where you're like, oh, I need to do it correctly. I need to find something I can do correctly that's mine. In a lot of cases, people, especially Americans, we have no cultural attachment to these places. So people who are learning things from like 23andMe about their ancestral lineage, they're going and they're starting to adopt all these things, but they don't know it. They didn't grow up in it. So they're just practicing it in the same way that you would if you were going to, what's a good example? Going to a game expo that is all like tabletop games and then talking about like video games the whole time. Yes, it's a game, but it's not the game that's being played at the tables right now. I hope that makes sense. I'm so glad that I chose these mandarins. We just got a bunch of produce today that we didn't have when we went shopping the other day. I'm really, really glad that I went and got these because, oh my gosh, my body wants this so bad. What I really want to learn how to do is throwing trinkets and bones. Sometimes people use trinkets instead of bones because they get the ick from using bones. But throwing trinkets is a very similar thing. And I've done a lot of research on that also just to get familiar with how it works and what it's meant for and stuff like that. And I find it super, super interesting. One of these days, I'm actually going to go through the process of building myself a kit and everything like that, and putting the things in it. I have like one or two things in my trinket box, stuff from when I was a child that I was able to reclaim when I was still talking with my family. That's been many years now. Things that were meaningful to me, and finding ways to incorporate them in this practice. I also have my own type of cards that I use. and this is me not being sponsored, but the side quest decks that you can get on the Hero's Journey website, I love them. I got a combination deck that has a little bit from all of the other decks that they offer because I wanted a little bit of everything. And I use them often, not just for myself, but for people who redeem in the points side quest card. So if anybody's ever interested in getting those, just know they are right within hand at all times. Realized that Spirit Lo-Fi has a train option in their game too. It's a DLC, so I might have to look into getting that as another option. I like this one though. I do. I think it's really beautiful. So I'm not going to consider no longer using this one. Also, no, that's an option. Anyway, let's see. I think we will do one more set of sprints before we raid out for the night. We are currently on page 63 of 270. So we're definitely going to need a couple more days of reading this book before it's done. I think. Maybe. We'll see. Over time, you will create your own lexicon of meaning through the very personal portal of your experiences and relationships. This is uniquely yours, yet it will be, or excuse me, yet it will likely rhyme with many of the things others say about whatever being or biome or chemical process, etc., you're working with. These moments of resonance or rhyming can be instructive as well. This process is gorgeous and life-changing. And there will also be grief as you realize how much has been lost to the violence of colonization and white supremacy. It is good to feel that grief and to recognize it for what it is. If you want to understand more about this, one excellent resource is the book My Grandmother's Hands by Resmaa Menakem. While this section is a brief introduction to these topics, I hope that it is giving you some of the tools that you need to approach these challenges. Unlearning the processes and tenets of colonization and white supremacy in spiritual spaces and topics can be a lifelong process. It's not about crafting some perfect, blameless version of a spiritual practice. Remember, perfection is white supremacy. Rather, it is about continuously doing what you need to do to become more connected with integrity, accountability, and grace. Choosing a venue. In some faith traditions, rituals are always held in the place where people regularly gather, like a church, temple, synagogue, mosque, or grove. I have had clients who choose to do their renaming ceremony in their religious gathering place when that was a possibility for them. Putting my chair cushion attached to my chair is not working. There we go. That's better. For some gender rituals, you may need a gathering space with lots of room for people. For other rituals, it may be just you and one or a few beloveds. Making choices around this is highly personal. The most important thing to remember is that when a ritual is yours, it is your own preferences that matter. If you're doing a ritual by or about someone else, then their preferences can run the show. But I have found that when folks allow someone else's preferences to dictate their gender ritual, the ritual loses power. What feels meaningful and important to to one person, may be neutral or actively distasteful to another person. If you allow someone else to bring elements to your ritual that are distasteful to you, the ritual will be impacted negatively by this. For example, let's say you feel it is important to have the ritual by a body of water, but your lover or friend or mom think that the ritual should be indoors. If you capitulate to keep peace, the ritual will be that much less powerful, because the parts of you that knew you wanted it to be close to water will not be able to conveniently forget that. This splits your focus and intention and disperses it in a way that really isn't helpful, especially in a ritual context. In general, life is a series of compromises. But in this instance, take time to really sit with yourself before you compromise. Ask yourself if you're really okay with the compromise, and honor the answer when it comes, even if it's inconvenient. Because it really does matter that your whole self is on board with this process. With that said, before choosing a venue, you will need to be very clear on what ritual you're doing and why. In the second part of the book, I will offer my own advice about whether or not a ritual is ideal for a social setting or with a crowd, and you can decide whether or not you agree with that, whether or not you agree, and what a more social setting means to you specifically. More social might mean you and two good friends in your living room, or it might mean a small crowd of people in a grassy valley in the local park. So much of this is personal and elastic, but it requires being honest with yourself about what you want, what works for you, and what does not. Once you've chosen your ritual and the number of attendees that feels right, I recommend thinking through the logistics. The name change ritual that I reference in the introduction started as a Zoom ritual due to the lockdown phase of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the virtual version of that ritual, each of us wrote the name or pronoun we were releasing onto a paper and then washed or dissolved the paper in water. When I decided to do this ritual in person, and we chose to do it on the beach, I felt gross about putting paper in the ocean. Though it is biodegradable, it still felt like littering. So after some thought, we chose to get natural chalk and write on stones. There are plenty of stones on the beach, and they came from the ocean. This is the sort of thing to consider when thinking through a venue. Read through the ritual as written, adjust as desired, and choose a space and place that suits the needs of that ritual. When doing this process, you may also realize that you want an officiant to conduct the ritual. While the word officiant sounds intense, your officiant can be whomever you'd like. A spiritual advisor, ritualist, or similar would be fine, but this could also be your friend, chosen family member, beloved, elder, or whomever feels like the right fit for you. I would come to this person with some advance notice if you can, so they can understand the ritual and go over the details with you ahead of time. There is no wrong choice with these details. It is all about what works for you specifically, so take the time to think through what you're hoping to gain from the ritual and what might need to shift for the ritual to be fully aligned to your intention. And remember, if things don't go according to plan or don't feel right to you, you can redo the ritual in the future. Conclusion. There is nothing wrong with doing the rituals in this volume as they are written. In fact, I've worked quite hard to make them accessible for exactly that purpose. However, if you're interested in tweaking and customizing the rituals, I trust that this chapter will give you some helpful tips or at least start your wheels turning in the right direction. Read through a ritual first and gauge whether or not you prefer to tailor it. Check in with yourself and ensure that you're not engaging in any cultural misappropriation or compromising your deeply held desires or values for the purpose of the ritual. Once you've made those choices, it's all about deciding who, if anyone, will be invited and where the ritual should be held. As we move into the next steps about pre-ritual and ritual skill, keep in mind that you do not have to know all the answers or do everything perfectly for your ritual to be effective and powerful. Messiness and struggle are part of the learning process. Over time, if you want to, you can try all sorts of different approaches and find what works for you specifically. If this is wildly different from what I outline in this book, that's actually not a problem at all. You learn a lot from disagreeing with someone and trying things on your own. If you take nothing else from this chapter, take this. You will not benefit from cultural misappropriation. Regardless of your relationship or lack of relationship with your root culture, you can and will benefit from building your own embodied relationships with other beings, land, elements, processes, and energies. Exploring this can kick off a rich and rewarding spiritual practice spiritual life and practice, and help you to tailor your rituals to suit your unique needs. Chapter 4, Foundational Skills. Energetic Hygiene. Introduction. Regardless of what type of ritual you are hoping to do and how you intend to use them, there are some foundational skills that will help you to be as effective as possible. You do not have to use each of these skills every time that you do ritual, but it is good to at least familiarize yourself with them. Note that each of these skills could be a book in itself. Most of these skills have multiple books written on them. These chapters are simply meant to give the information needed for folks to use the ritual instructions in this book. But if any of these pique your interest, I've created a list of relevant texts in the resources section. I've divided these foundational skills into the next 2 chapters. This chapter, covering cleansing, grounding, and shielding, offers an overview in these skills. I have put them into their own chapter because they are so vital, not only for ritual, but also just for moving through the world as a trans person. If all you get from this entire book, is a small short version of each of these practices that you do regularly, then the entire book will have been worth it. That's how much I believe in these foundational skills. I recommend reading through this section and ideally practicing each skill before moving on to the rituals I've created for this book. As always, take what works for you and leave the rest. Cleansing. Cleansing is a sort of pre-ritual ritual. In fact, cleansing itself can be, and in my opinion should be, a ritual in itself. You will notice that some of the rituals in this book are almost entirely cleansing, such as the ritual for after being misgendered. But even for rituals that are focused on other activities, cleansing is a vital precursor to the work. There are cleansing rituals that involve many different steps, but cleansing can also be as simple as spraying yourself with an herbal hydrosol, doing a breathing exercise, or washing your hands. Regardless of how intense or simple, cleansing in some way, in some form, is required for doing ritual. At its most basic, it is a way of letting yourself know that you are moving from one thing to another, from mundane life into the realm of magical or intentional. However, cleansing can be about so much more than that. You may hear folks discuss priming the vessel, and cleansing as an aspect of this. That's because when you come into ritual, it's ideal to have relieved yourself of the burdens of your mundane life as much as possible. If you're new to the idea of energetic cleansing, think of it like any other form of personal hygiene. What if you went through the effort of washing all of your bedding and remaking your bed in the morning, but then spent the afternoon doing some sort of incredibly sweaty activity in a muddy field? You probably wouldn't get into your nice clean bed before stripping your muddy clothes and taking at least a cursory shower. Similarly, cleansing before ritual is washing away the energetic sweat, mud, and dust that we retain when moving through this world. In this way, we can come to the ritual space without distracting energetic detritus and focus more fully on the task at hand. Another advantage of cleansing is energetic sovereignty. This refers to a state of being fully in your own energy and not being overly impacted or swayed by the energy of others. We will discuss this more in the section on attuning to your own energy. But your energy is one of your greatest and most vital gifts in the world. No one else's energy is the same as yours. You have a spark that is all your own, and that spark can be utilized as a form of protection a way of discerning your path, a method of finding your people, and so much more. Your energy is precious. It is a gift. Learning to work with it mindfully is practically a superpower in this capitalist culture. When we are fully in our own energy, we are able to see clearly what is ours and what isn't. This is one of those things that is quite simple to say and unbelievably profound to experience. Other people can, and often totally unknowingly, drain our energy and use it to process their own thoughts and feelings. Most of us have experienced this. For example, when someone starts using a conversation with us to process their own unresolved feelings about their gender identity. When done properly and with consent, a conversation like this can be so lovely, so affirming, and a genuine positive experience for all involved. But too often these conversations require vast amounts of unacknowledged stress for the trans person involved, while the other person will feel like they are just talking. This is just one example of so many. I could and may write another book just about energetic hygiene, energetic boundaries. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. First and foremost, I did not know it was that loud. And secondly, my do not disturb decided uh to interrupt me. That's really embarrassing. Jeez. Okay. Sorry. Me reread that whole portion really quick. As soon as I can find it. Other people can often totally unknowingly drain our energy and use it to process their own thoughts and feelings. Most of us have experienced this, for example, when someone starts using a conversation with us to process their own unresolved feelings about their gender identity. When done properly with consent, a conversation like can be so lovely, so affirming, and a genuinely positive experience for all involved. But too often, these conversations require vast amounts of unacknowledged stress for the trans person involved, while the other person will feel like they are just talking. This is just one example of so many. I could and may write another book just about energy energetic hygiene, energetic boundaries, and other important energetic exercises. But for the purpose of this book, understanding that cleansing your energy is most supportive when it is something that you do consistently, ideally every day or most days in some form. But at the very least, cleansing before a ritual, even in a small, easy, simple, and fast way, is a must. There are many different forms of cleansing, and there is interplay between the energetic and the mundane. For example, cleaning and resetting your house in a totally normal, mundane way can move a vast amount of energy and serve you as well as a cleanse. In fact, this type of mundane cleanse is often a necessary precursor when you're doing big cleanses like the bathing protocol that I outline later. But cleansing need not require a top to bottom deep clean of your living space. If pressed for time, you can simply add a little sea salt to your soap when you wash your hands. It is also helpful to think about cleansing with the various elements. How does water cleanse? How does air cleanse? Fire, earth. We often use water to cleanse our bodies, but remember that earth uses all sorts of processes and webs of relationship to facilitate decomposition, which in turn feeds the soil and the creatures therein, which in turn feeds all terrestrial life. So in that way, Earth has their own cleansing properties that are available to you energetically or conceptually. Similarly, fire offers its own cleanse. Sometimes the brush must burn to germinate the next generation of wildflowers. Sometimes we need to sit in a sauna and sweat our stress away. Humans across many cultures have purified the air with burning herbs or incense. Fire is used to purify and refine metals, to distill herbal essences, to release intentions written on spell paper, and these are just a few examples. Air is also a powerful cleansing element. As a breathwork facilitator, I often use the breath as a form of air purification for the body. We breathe deeply into our lungs, opening up space that might have been closed off, and release energy, emotions, and memories that may have been trapped. Sound can air cleanse the body. Have you ever given a primal scream? Have you ever sung a song with a group of people? These too are air cleansing. Cleansing your energy may not feel natural at first, but it is a vital part of your hygiene, much like scrubbing your body or brushing your teeth. You can stack some energetic cleansing work with these forms of bodily hygiene so that your physical and energetic hygiene become connected, and you're more likely to do both. This might look like taking 2 deep cleansing breaths before you brush your teeth, or washing your body with cleansing herbal sugar scrub in the shower. As with everything, start with small, doable practices and build from there. So without further ado, here are a few of my favorite cleansing options. As with all the advice in this book, you can adapt it to suit your own needs and situation. Remember, all of these rituals are meant to serve you, so feel free to adjust, mix and match, and play until it feels right. A simple energetic cleanse with breath or body. Method. Number 1. Start by finding a position and place where you are stable. I often do this standing, though you can do it in any posture that feels good to you. If it feels good, close your eyes. If it doesn't, just let them softly focus on the middle distance or focus on one specific point, whatever helps you be focused and present. Number 2, find your breath. You don't have to deepen it, just find it. Let yourself become aware of your lungs filling and emptying. If being aware of your breath makes you feel bad, stressed, triggered, or negative in any way, instead, try pulling your arms in toward you as if gathering something close to your body, and then pushing them away from you, as if gently scattering something arm movement isn't available to you, you can use fingers or toes or use your mind to imagine pulling one color of light, your energy, into your body and then pushing another color, all other energies, away from you. Feel free to combine these in any way that feels good. On the pulling in, be it the inhale, motion, imagination, you can either say or think, I call my energy back to me. On the pushing out, exhale, motion, imagination, you can say, I release all energy that isn't mine. Do this at least 3 times or as many times as you want until you feel ready to be done. Number 6, if you like, you can imagine the energy that is leaving your body, going into the earth or being decomposed and recycled. You can also imagine it dispersing into the air or into the water or vaporizing in the light of the sun. I sometimes add to this by saying, I release all energy that isn't mine back into the earth where it can be composted into sustenance for all living things. You can come up with your own phrasing that works with the elements that you resonate with. Number 7, releasing energy to the earth can be more effective when combined with grounding, covered in this next section. A simple, energetic cleanse with water. I think this cleanse is best done in the shower, though if a shower is not available, you can do a hand washing version or complete a ritual in a bath. It is nice to have a scrub or exfoliating cleanser for this. I prefer a salt scrub, most preferably a black salt scrub or a sugar scrub, or a sugar scrub mixed with charcoal. You can also use an exfoliating glove, washcloth, or even just your hands. Ingredients: soap, exfoliating wash of some sort of preferred, salt scrub, black salt scrub, or sugar scrub with charcoal would be ideal. If your soap is not exfoliating, an exfoliating glove, loofah, body brush, or some scrubbing thing would be great. Some place where you can bathe, a shower preferred. In a pinch, you can use a sink and wash only your hands. Water. Optionally, olive oil, jojoba oil, or another oil you like for your skin. Good grief. it might be time to listen to my body and go to sleep. I've been yawning for a little bit. I'm feeling fatigued now. So I think we're gonna go and read out. I'm just looking for someone to read. I have a few options. We raided into Shiga Shiga Bane yesterday. But I think maybe we'll go to Radio OTA. Unless I can find someone else that fits better. Everybody else in the writing and reading section right now is primarily writing. Not a lot of readers. So I'm trying to think. I really do think that raiding into OTA is the best method. Yeah, I think that's where we're gonna go. We hope you enjoyed your stay. It's good to have you with us, even if it's just for the day. We hope you enjoyed your stay. Outside the sun is shining, seems like everyone's far away. It's good to have you with us, even if it's just for the day. I want to thank you once again for stopping in and joining us in this digital ride on the train as we read. I also want to thank Moog for bringing people by. That was so kind. I can't wait to stop in on your stream next time I see you live. So, remember, of course, to drink water, to stretch, to take your meds, to go outside every so often, and if you have any furry, feathery, or scaly friends, to make sure you give them a hug and a kiss. We will be picking up again with our bit probably tomorrow. In the meantime, I hope you have a good evening. Take care. Remember to join us as we go and raid into Radio OTA.